What remains of Edith Finch? That is the question. And it's a question we can only answer by taking a deep dive into the Finch family history, generation by generation. So this game, I'm going to divide it into only two sections: gameplay and narrative. Not atmosphere or anything else like that, because quite frankly, with the exception of some good music in the beginning, this game doesn't have much of an atmosphere to speak of in the first place. That's about it. So, starting with gameplay. Now, this game, I'm not going to rate its overall gameplay simply because there's not much to it. It's like the Town of Light in Martha is Dead to some degree, in the sense that all it is basically a walking simulator. So with that being said, why am I even counting the gameplay at all? Well, for one very simple reason. For that very simple reason is this: the sort of mini games that cover each Finch family member's death, because those are unique in their own ways, and some of these things are interesting. I don't remember all of them, but so I'm gonna go with ones I do remember more so in detail. So I remember the first one was Molly, I believe the little girl. Now, anything and everything that happens after the initial bedroom segment when she opens the window is nonsense. None of it really happened. It's all just there to be there. As in, like, it's her imagination. But that being said, it was still, and I'll touch more on that later, but that being said, it was still interesting to play as all those little creatures, as linear as it ended up being. And truth be told, that one's actually pretty simple. All it is you play as one animal after another, eating more and more and more off, because that's how Lily died. That's how Molly died. But more on that later on with the narrative section of this. Another one was I'm gonna say this. I think the most interesting one. I don't remember all of them. I'm just gonna say that right now, right off the bat. I'm gonna say okay. So one that was bland as hell was the photograph one. Like, the photograph one when the dude gets bucked off, meh. You look around, you take fucking pictures. The only decent part of it was that one part where it was almost like you're playing him in second person, because the camera is like one guy and you're sitting there watching him go up the mountain up until his death. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skip ahead and go straight to the last two. Actually, you know what? There's one more I'm gonna do too. The drowning baby. That one was very. Okay, you know what? Come to think of it, most of these are very simple. So yeah, I'm just gonna skip ahead to two in particular. One is one that I think was very interesting and very well done, which was the comic panel one. The one about the home invasion and the whole deal, and how it actually has you playing in the comic panels. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing revolutionary about it whatsoever, straight up in all honesty, but innovative as hell. So I'll give it that for that. That's pretty much the only note I have on that one. Now here is one that I kind of disliked. It was the imagination one. The one where the fucking guy, I think his name was Lewis, just basically lives in imagination land, and he's at the cannery. I thought he was going to cut his fucking hand off on the thingy, but that didn't happen. And then I'll talk about more what happens to him. But I didn't really like that part. And the reason why, I gotta be honest, it was way it bothered me, all the walking around, just all the regular like walking. Like, I wanted to run. Like, having the walking segment being the main game is fine because it's just a girl walking around her old house. But having it being in that sort of more fantasy setting is something that I wasn't quite on board with, because I just wanted to get it done over with faster, to be honest. So I guess my complaint with it is that it lasted too long. It overstayed its welcome to me. Just that's what happened. And it didn't have a true payoff. So, I don't know. To me, it was just too long. It would have benefited from being probably 5 minutes shorter. Because, every other one was like that too. Most of them were short. Like, the bathtub one is short. The swing set one is short. Most of them are shorter. Even the longer ones, like Molly's, were still much shorter. I felt like it went on for a bit too long, that particular one. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. The atmosphere, I said I was going to touch on it, but the atmosphere doesn't really have much to speak of. I mean, Had some music in the beginning too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over the narrative, which ties directly into the character shit too. So this game, it's divided into generations, and each generation is seen on the notebook when you pause the game. And there's the Finch family curse, which they know about to the point where they actually built a cemetery before the actual house. So what's the deal with this family curse? Well, the notion that I'm getting from it is that each generation has one family member, all but one family member, die under some mysterious circumstances, no matter their age. There was one about a storm where some kid got killed by something falling on him, I think. All but one person of each generation dies mysteriously, and this curse is told throughout the generations. And where we get to the main point of the game is that I normally don't summarize these games when I review them, but this time I kind of feel the need to, because this game, its whole narrative is in essence the summarizing of it. So like, I can't really talk about my thoughts on the narrative unless I summarize it, so I kind of have to here. I normally don't do this. But anyway, the main meat and bones is that all but one generation die. And then that one person will have another generation, the other generation dies. All but one. And then we get to Edith Finch's mother, whose name I forget. And like, everybody dies there too. Now, her plan, I thought it was dumb at first, which it still kind of is, I guess, but I suppose it's more ceremonial or honorific or whatever you want to call it. But Edith Finch's mother seals off all the rooms, and she also makes sure that her family isn't aware of the curse. And by the way, I don't know if this is the actual narrative per se. This is my interpretation of it, because I didn't read any sort of reviews or anything like that. I'm doing this blind, so this is just my thoughts on it. If my thoughts are incorrect, then fuck me. That's all I gotta say about that. Anyway, now each generation has people die all but one, and they all know about the curse. So my interpretation of this is that the mother intentionally didn't tell Edith or the current generation to say, or I suppose the past generation, wink wink, about the curse in hopes that it wouldn't kill them. But they died anyway. So then she felt like the curse, like her first notion is that the curse happened because they knew about it. But after that notion was proven false, her next idea was that the house causes the curse, which is why she moved away from it quickly as she could with Edith. But that also turned out to be false because now, so in the end of the game, spoiler alert, this is a fucking review. In the end of the game, Edith Finch is dead. I don't think the game ever goes into how she died. It didn't give her any sort of flashback sequences or anything. So I'm not sure how she died, but she did. And it's quite clear that it's because of the curse. And so her kid is... Well, she gave birth at 17, and she's just dead. So maybe childbirth? I don't know. There could be any number of fucking... It's not like there's some sort of systematic order to how these guys die. One got bucked off a fucking thing by a fucking thing. One got drowned in a bathtub. Another one died because she ate some shit. So this part's a little bit all over the place, I know, but you know what? So I'm just getting towards... I'm talking about the ending right now. I'll talk about each death afterwards. I'm pretty sure she dies of childbirth. So, like, the way this game rolls is that Edith Finch's kid is reading her diary that she left for him, which is why this game plays out like a book. In fact, to some degree, like, this is one game, what's it called? The Town of Light is another game like this, where it would have probably been better off as a book. Straight up. This might have been better straight up as a novel. But the kid's reading the diary, which is why Edith Finch narrates it the entire time, because it's the diary. And she's telling him about the fact that her mom sent her the key so that way she can go back and look through all their people's deaths. Because The mother intentionally, like I said earlier, the mother intentionally kept the curse hidden from her children. So Edith didn't know a damn thing about the curse, like her whole life. But once everybody was dead, she sent Edith the key. Edith went into the house, and that's where she, like, the whole game. So narratively, the game takes place with Edith's kid, with her narrating the diary. But gameplay wise, it's about what the diary is about, which is her discovering the curse by finding out about each one of her past generations' families' deaths. So that's kind of the overall narration that I'm getting here. If there's any more to it than that, then fuck me. But that does bring me into a nice segue into each death. One guy, now all this generational shit, I'm not going to be able to get quite right because there's a lot of names and a lot of family members, and some of them are parent and child, and some of them are aunt and uncle. I can't do this generation by generation. It's too goddamn confusing. I don't do this by a script. I just do this ad hoc. So, like these reviews. So I can't do this like by family member, just by generation. I'll just do it by certain family members. Molly, she consumed a bottle of toothpaste or a tube of toothpaste, and she ate those berries. Now the rest of her dream sequence is bullshit. So I'm gonna err on the side of caution that the berries that she ate were not edible. Which makes sense because of terrible parenting. She obviously had terrible parents. They sent her to bed hungry without dinner. Fuck what your kids are doing fuck how your kids are misbehaving. You feed your goddamn kids. But if you're gonna say, so my guess is that the toothpaste and or the berry led to her death. She ate some poisonous shit, killed her. That's my guess. Probably the berries more so than the toothpaste. Because I'm assuming that because her parents aren't very competent. That's from letting her kid basically starve. So my guess is that they didn't get her child safety toothpaste that you can probably safely consume, and that berry probably was toxic, which is like one thing you shouldn't want in a kid's room is anything that can hurt them. If you have a poisonous berry in your kid's room, you're a fuck of a parent. If you have toothpaste that could kill your kid in their room, you're a fuck of a parent. Just saying, like. If you have anything in your child's vicinity that could easily kill them without them knowing it, then fuck. Or even, even with them, like you gotta teach your kids shit, dude. So Molly's death was a fucking tragedy. Then you get the baby, where my guess is the baby is from the same generation because the mother was just as incompetent, where she basically let her fucking baby drown. Come to think of it, it is the curse narratively, but I would almost be tempted to say that a lot of these deaths are just normal things. I get that it is a curse in narrative, but they're normal things. The child had a terrible parent, the baby had a terrible neglectful parent, the guy who got bucked off the cliff fucked up. That's all there was to that one. That was a fuck up. Lewis was depressed. That's pretty clear. He was working at a cannery, a job he hated. He was depressed, so he fucking killed himself. That happens. Edith died of childbirth. That's my headcanon, because it doesn't tell you jack shit else. So, a 17-year-old dying of childbirth, we're in the idiot, but I feel like a 17-year-old might make the chances higher. That seems plausible to me. Some kid going around in circles on a swing set. I tried to do that when I was a kid. Never succeeded, but I tried. And to just fucking fly off a goddamn cliff, I can see it happening. I flew off the goddamn swing set when I was a kid. And when I flew off the goddamn swing set, I wasn't even doing any crazy bullshit. I wasn't, in a circle. But what happened to me, we were in a playground with those, rubber flakes, or whatever the fuck they are. You know what I'm talking about? The black rubber flake thingies. I flew off the fucking swing set. Bam, hit those little rubber things. Did it hurt? It might have scraped an elbow or something, but that's it. But my point though is that that kind of shit, yeah. Fucked up tragedies, but at the same time. And the grandma died, Edith Finch's grandma died, but she felt that her daughter betrayed her. But I know what the whole and then the only real exception to this, and this is the weird one, is the guy who's like locked up in the basement for like 30 fucking years, and as soon as he gets hit by a train. That one isn't normal. That one I would say is just a curse, because that's some fucking dramatic irony. But for the most part, this shit is just normal as it is, just straight up. So I just want to point that out because I find it kind of funny how this game's whole thing is the curse. You know, what remains of Edith Finch? It's the curse, but like most of, and I get the curse isn't about how they died. It's just about the fact that the family members die in some way or another. But still, like you'd think that someone would have been like, I don't know, kidnapped and sacrificed to Satan or something. Well, I guess Milton probably was kidnapped, so maybe. But then again, the game never goes into that again, so that's about it. There wasn't much to it, but honestly, this is a short game without much to it. So this game, how am I going to deal with this? I did like it, but it wasn't anything special. I will give this game a final grade, or I suppose maybe current grade, of a B minus. B for Bravo, minus. You know, there wasn't anything especially wrong with it. The only real complaint I have is that Lewis's section was a bit too long. The narrative did what it needed to do. Was the gameplay simplistic as fuck? It sufficed, but what is it, simplistic overall? Yes. But at the same time, it was short, so it doesn't really matter. It's like the Town of Light. The Town of Light was short as fuck. But the Town of Light also had puzzle to complement it. And it was a much darker narrative. I don't mind if a game is basically a walking simulator that's narrative first, so long as it doesn't last too long. This game lasts about 3 hours. Another one was A Town of Light, which lasts about 3 hours. Another one was The Park, which lasts for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And in all those games, and Martha's Dead lasts longer than that, but Martha's Dead has puzzles, although the puzzles are basically inconsequential for the most part. They don't mean shit, so... But if you skip them, then it drastically shortens the length, so I'll get the one credit's due. But overall, though, like, for these games, the only one that wasn't like that was Soma, but I'll give Soma a pass because it had a lot of puzzles and other things. It had enemies and whatnot, so it wasn't just a walking simulator. Walking just happened to be the main part of it. So that being said, though, yeah, that's it for this review. It was a decent game. I liked it. It did what it needed to do, and nothing crazy happened with it. And that's it. So until next time,